In 1789, Benjamin Franklin wrote a letter to John Baptiste Leroy, who was a French scientist, and he said, "In this world, nothing is certain except for death, taxes," and what they didn't keep quoting him was, "and honey will crystallize." I'm pretty sure that's what Ben Franklin said. So what do you do when you've got 5-gallon buckets that have crystallized honey in them? You do what every good beekeeper does. You put them in the freezer. Yep, that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna talk about how I uncrystallize 5-gallon buckets in my bee freezer / bee honey warmer. So I want to show you the setup. It's a pretty simple thing, but it's going to give you an idea of how you might take some box of some sort that's insulated if you've got honey in 5-gallon buckets and it needs to be uncrystallized. Or I have taken massive amounts of honey that's already bottled and I put them in here and uncrystallize them that way. So a couple of different ways to use this. I'm going to show you the setup. So, and welcome to the bowels. Yeah, it looks like a mess, but it's actually pretty organized. And that's a lot of empty honey supers. That's where I store all my honey supers. I don't store them out in my shed. I keep them back down here because I know that they're a little bit safer. Plus, I've run everything through the freezer. Even though they're honey supers, I still run honey supers through the freezer just to make sure there aren't any bugs on them, especially small hive beetles and some other things. That's a whole nother topic. We're here to talk about uncrystallizing these 5-gallon buckets of honey. Because I gotta, actually, believe it or not, the first mini markets start here in a few weeks, and I've got to have at least, probably 60 pounds of honey ready to go. So let me show you the setup and how it goes. One quick thing I do want to add is that you're all going, I don't have a freezer. Well, a freezer is a great thing to have because you're able to freeze frames, you're able to do what I'm doing, warm it up. It's very versatile. I found this on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, any of the places you have local that are selling things. The woman had this for sale for $50. And I wrote, I'd like to use it in my honeybee operation. And she got back to me and said, it's yours. And I'm like, oh, fantastic. When I picked it up from her, she said she had about 50 people within the first hour she posted it saying that they wanted this freezer. But because I said I was using it for my honeybee operation, and she's like, wow, I want to help the bees. I mean, we get all those all the time, right? That's how I was lucky enough to be able to land it. So just saying, you know, use what you got. And I will say one thing, I bought it for 50 bucks. I sold her $35 worth of honey while I was there. What can I say? Anyway, okay, moving on. So what's in the magic freezer? Well, I'm going to show you. There's two things that make this work. And I'm going to put links to all these things down in the description if you're looking to buy them. I investigated a lot, found things that were both quality and inexpensive because I don't want to spend a ton of money on this, but I've got to have uncrystallized honey. Because in the United States, everybody wants uncrystallized honey. For all my friends in the UK and all my friends in Australia, I know what you're thinking. It's like, we love crystallized honey. I know. Here in the United States, we don't. So anyway, here we go. What's the number one thing you need to have? A heater. This is just a little tiny 1 temperature heater, but it works great. And you're thinking, well, how can it possibly work great if you're just heating all the time? I'm not, because this heater is hooked up to this Inkbird temperature gauge, and it has a thermostat. And I'm going to show you how this whole thing works. Thermostat goes in when the temperature gets below what I want it to be, and I uncrystallize honey at 103 degrees. That's just below the point where people say there's a lot of degradation of the honey, so that's what I work at. And it turns the heater on and off. But one other thing that I've got that I found helps tremendously is this cheap little tiny fan, because what it does is it circulates the air all the way through it. And that, I think, really helps to promote the honey uncrystallizing a little bit quicker. You don't have hot spots. It's just more like it's a convection oven for all intents and purposes. And then also in the bottom of it, I'm going in, I have a couple of boards. I like the buckets to sit up off the bottom a little bit. Again, just so you're getting that air circulation underneath it. Let me show you how this whole thing works. Buckets go in, but I want to talk about this for a second. I always put a bucket in that has a gate on it. And the reason I do that is that it's real easy to look inside of a bucket and say, hey, that honey looks pretty good. When in actuality, it's not clear. So if you can see right here, this honey looks like, well, it looks actually pretty good, Dave. It's like, it's not. It's extremely close to solidifying. So anyway, I've got the gate on the bucket so I can pull the bucket out. I can pour some honey into a jar and see where it's at. I uncrystallize 1 5-gallon bucket technically at a time. And the reason I do that is I know that the honey that's in this bucket and the honey that's in this bucket were crystallized equally. So if I've got honey coming out of the gate that's clear here, I know, I'm not lifting that again, I know the honey in that bucket's clear as well. So that's why I use a gate on a bucket. It's easier than dipping something in, and that's just a mess. Okay, so these go into the freezer slash warmer. I take my thermostat, I put them somewhere down in the middle of the buckets. I close everything up. This is really super simple, but I just want to show you how this is done so that if you're like, oh my God, I got these 5-gallon buckets, I don't know what to do. Then it all gets plugged in. I set my temperature to 103 and voila. Then I do a quick check to make sure everything is running, which it is. I set that there and I walk away. I come back 2 or 3 times just to make sure that nothing's gone awry. It's 61.3 degrees inside there right now. It's climbing and I walk away. At 103, this isn't that crystallized, but I'm still probably talking 3 to 4 days at that temperature to get it to the clarification point that I want. So that's just the way it goes. But you got to think early because, like I said, my first market's 1st of March. Right now we're toward the end of January, and I'm going to clarify about 3 or 4 buckets because I also got a big wholesale coming up across the river in St. Louis. So that's what you got. All this is down in the links. If you haven't subscribed, please do. It really helps us out. And hit that like button. And if you've got questions, comments, leave them in the comment section and we'll get to you. Thanks for watching. Pretty simple stuff, but hey, it's just part of beekeeping, and I just want everybody to have an idea of how to do things. You might go, I wonder how you do that. Hope it helps. You guys take care.